The wind howled across the desolate plains as Ethan pulled his truck onto the dirt path that led to the old rancher, the one he swore he'd never return to. Dust coiled up around the tires, carrying with it the ghosts of memories he had long buried. The house stood crooked against the horizon, its paint stripped away by decades of sun and storms, its windows hollow and blind, its wooden porch groaning beneath the weight of time. This was his father's land once, a place of sweat, blood, and silence, a place Ethan left behind after the family broke apart. He hadn't meant to come back. Not really, but something drew him here, a whisper he couldn't shake, a pull that felt almost unnatural. He stepped out into the crisp air, the smell of dry grass and rust filling his lungs, and stared at the rancher like it might stare back. For a moment he wondered if he should turn around and leave, but his boots crunched forward all the same. The front door was unlocked, which unsettled him. Nobody should have been here in years. Pushing it open, he entered a world preserved in dust. Cobwebs hung like curtains in the corners. Floorboards creaked with every cautious step, and in the silence he could hear the echo of his own heartbeat. He scanned the dim interior, remembering where his mother used to set the dining table, where his father's chair had always been. Nostalgia twisted in his gut. But it wasn't nostalgia alone that chilled him. It was the sense of being watched. He followed it, that prickling awareness, through the narrow hallway and toward the back of the house. A faint sound reached him, so soft he almost thought it was the wind again. But no, this was different. A breath, a whisper, a human sound. His chest tightened as he pushed open the door to the old guest room, and that's when he saw her. She sat on the floor in the far corner, knees tucked against her chest, long hair falling in tangled waves that glistened faintly in the sliver of light cutting through the cracked blinds. Her eyes snapped up at him the instant the door creaked, wide and startled like an animal caught in a trap. She was young, maybe mid-20s, dressed in a faded white dress that looked both out of place and strangely timeless. Ethan froze, his brain scrambling to process the impossible sight before him. A stranger here in his family's abandoned rancher? "Who are you?" he asked, his voice rough with disbelief. She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed herself tighter into the wall, like she expected him to vanish or explode into violence. Her silence was heavy, charged with something unspoken. Ethan raised his hands slowly, palms outward, trying not to frighten her more. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said carefully. This is my place. My family's. No one should be here. How long have you—" He cut himself off as she flinched at the sound of his words. Her lips parted as though she might speak, but then she shut them again, shaking her head. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. The rancher groaned under the weight of the wind outside, but it was the silence of the woman in the corner room that kept him awake. He had offered her food, a blanket, even the chance to use the old bathroom if she wanted. But she had barely spoken, her voice no more than whispers, her eyes constantly darting toward the windows as though expecting someone, or something, to be watching from the darkness. He had left her to her solitude eventually, but every time he closed his eyes on the dusty couch in the living room, he saw her face, pale, haunted, yet undeniably strong. What was she hiding? Why did her words, "They'll find me, you're part of it now," burn so deep into his mind? At dawn, restless and on edge, Ethan pushed himself up, brushing dirt off his jeans, and decided he needed answers. He couldn't just ignore her existence and walk away. Whatever trap she was tangled in, he couldn't let it swallow her whole. He went to the room again, pushing the door open gently. She was sitting by the window now, watching the horizon with that same distant expression, her hands resting on her knees like she had been waiting. She turned her head toward him as he entered, eyes tired but sharper than before. "You didn't leave," she said, her tone more a statement than a question. Ethan leaned against the doorway, folding his arms. "No, not until I know what this is." She studied him, almost as if weighing his soul. Then she gave a small, bitter laugh. "You really don't know what you walked into, do you? Why don't you explain it to me?" He countered, though part of him feared the answer. She lowered her gaze, her voice trembling yet steady enough to carry. "I wasn't born free. I was Raised inside a place most people don't believe exists. A house, a compound, a prison disguised as salvation. They taught us to obey, to remain pure, to be ready for a purpose we didn't choose. Ethan's jaw tightened. A cult. He'd heard rumors of such groups in the far reaches of the state, whispers of fanatics hiding behind scripture and ritual, but he'd never come face to face with someone who escaped. She continued, her fingers tracing invisible lines on the glass as though seeing the past reflected there. When I turned 21, they said it was time. They said I belonged to their vow, their prophecy. I couldn't accept it. I ran. But running doesn't erase the mark they put on me. They find people like me, always. Ethan felt the weight of her words settle over him, heavy as the dust in the rafters. And you ended up here? He asked quietly. She nodded. This place, it called to me. I don't know why. I've been hiding here for weeks. It's the only place they haven't touched. But when you came back, everything changed. They'll know. A shiver of unease crawled down Ethan's spine. Know what? She looked at him then, her gaze piercing, unflinching. That you're with me now, and once they know, they won't stop until they take us both.